All right, so before we start learning about the difference between atoms and ions today, I just want to go back to what we would have covered last week if I was here. And I just want to show you chemical symbols and like how do we write chemical symbols. So a lot of times you'll see chemical symbols written like this. And I want you to write some of this down. I want you to know like, well, what are the basics of this diagram? So the first one is in the middle. We just put the 1 or 2 letter symbol for the element. Okay. So that goes in the middle. And then take a look at the top right. If it has a net charge, we'll write the charge in the top right. Okay. So if you want, you can just write the +1. And you can also write, like that +1 is just telling you the net charge. You do not need to copy the fine print in your notes. Okay, so don't copy that. But know that like on the top right, here we have +1. That's just telling you the net charge. Then on the top left, this number is telling you your mass number. And again, I think you just need to have like 23, and then you can just like write a note to yourself that this 23 is showing the mass number. You don't need the fine print, but it is just telling you how many protons and neutrons that atom has. And then finally, the number on the bottom left is the atomic number. So this is the number we grabbed from the periodic table. Okay. And remember, the atomic number always tells you the number of protons. So a lot of times when we're looking at elements, we'll see that like the information gets organized in this way. And you can get all the info you need as far as like protons, neutrons, electrons go. Okay. If we know the net charge, then that tells us how many electrons the atom has. If we know the mass number and the atomic number, we know how many protons it has, and then we can subtract and get our number of neutrons. Okay. So you don't need to memorize this format. Just have it in your notes, so if I ever give you information in this format, you have like a key to go look up, and you know which number is which. All right, so then today we're going to learn about ions. Okay, so ions are just charged atoms. So it means they have some sort of an electric charge. And then hopefully what you learned from that simulation is ions form when atoms lose or gain electrons. So if you want, you can like highlight, star, underline. The key is it's electrons. All right, and then when we look at ions, we have 2 different types of ions. The first one, we call them cations. Everyone say cation. Okay, these ones are positive ions. Okay, so like a +1 charge, a +2 charge. That means that electrons are lost. Okay, and then the second type are called anions. Everyone say anion. Good. These ones are negative ions. It means that electrons are gained. All right, you do need to know these words. These are vocab words we use pretty much for the rest of the school year, okay? So we'll reference cations and anions for the rest of the year. You need to know cations are the positive charged ones. Anions are the negative charged ones. I don't have like a super fancy technique to help you remember, but one strategy is in cation. Do you see how there's the letter T? Okay, right. The letter T, it looks like that positive symbol, right? You kind of with me there? So if you struggle with remembering which one's which, okay? The T in cation looks like a positive symbol. Also, are there any cat lovers in this room? Like you are a cat person, okay? If you're a cat person, you can remember cats are absolutely positive, okay? Or cats are positively awesome. Some sort of positive saying about cats. Hydrogen has a plus charge. If no number is written, just the number 1 is implied. Okay, so that means this one has a +1 charge. So another way you can think about it, there's 1 more proton than there are electrons. So in order for hydrogen to have a +1 charge, it had to lose 1 electron. Magnesium commonly gets a +2 charge. So that means that it has 2 more protons than electrons. So the magnesium had to lose 2 electrons. Fluorine has a negative charge. Again, if a number isn't written up there, what number is implied? Okay, 1, so it has a -1 charge. This means that there's one fewer protons than electrons, or there's one more electron than protons. Okay, so this one had to gain an electron. Oxygen has a -2 charge. Okay, so there's either 2 fewer protons, or you could think there's 2 more electrons. So this atom had to gain 2 electrons. Okay, so then at your table, I want you to go through just 2 of these questions. So the first one, why are ions not caused by the gain or loss of protons? Okay, so as your individual table, talk about that. Like, why can't you gain or lose protons to create an ion? Okay, what did we come up with? Okay, if you change the number of protons, it ends up changing the whole element. And were you able to see that on the simulation today? Good. Okay, I know I didn't put it up here. What about changing neutrons? Okay, it does nothing. Neutrons are neutral. So if you add or take away neutrons, does it change a charge? Okay, nope. Okay, next, at your just individual tables, talk about why do some atoms gain or lose electrons? Okay, so why do ions form in the first place? Okay, what are we thinking for this one?
To have a perfect 8 valence shell.
Okay, they want to fill up that valence shell, and what's the magic number?
8.
Okay, 8.
Or 2 if you're hydrogen.
Or 2 if you're hydrogen or helium. Okay, all right, so that's the name of the game, right? How many can you gain or lose to get to 8 in that outer shell? Okay, we're going to do just a couple practice problems. So we're just going to count the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons for the following ions. So this is where you want your periodic table out. All right, so our first one is oxygen. It has a -2 charge. Okay. All right, protons still doesn't change. So how many protons does oxygen have? 8. Okay, neutrons. How many neutrons do you think oxygen has? 8. And this time for electrons, what are we thinking?
10.
10. 10 electrons. The reason being, the neutral atom would have 8, but this one has to have 2 more negatives, right? You have to 2 more negative charges, so you have to take 8 plus 2 and get 10. Okay, take a look at tin or SN with a +2 charge.
Wait, where is that? What's that number?
50.
4, 8.
Okay, does everyone found tin?
Yep.
Okay, so how many protons does tin have?
50.
Okay, 50. I want to show you the math for neutrons on this one. Okay, so look at tin. What mass is shown in your periodic table box?
118.71.
Okay, so 118.71. Can you have 0.71 of a proton or a neutron?
No.
Okay, so what are you going to round this number to?
119.
Okay, so you're just going to round that to 119, and then that's representing your number of protons and neutrons. So if we subtract the protons from that number, so that's where 50 is coming from, that's how we can get our neutrons. So 119 minus 50 is 69. All right, and then electrons, it has a +2 charge. So what does that mean?
2 less electrons.
Okay, 2 less electrons compared to protons. So if there's 50 protons, how many electrons? 48. Good. Okay, I want you to try this third one on your own, and then we'll check answers. So what's phosphorus with a -3 charge? So try it on your own, and then we'll check answers. Okay, how many protons in phosphorus?
15.
Okay, 15. How many neutrons? 16. And it has a -3 charge, so how many electrons? Okay, 18.